Good morning, dear students. Today we are going to study short story writing. A story writing is a work of fiction or imagination that is usually written in easily understandable grammatical structure with natural flow of speech. If we talk about the contents of a good story, it is always written in three paragraphs. It has a beginning, a middle, and an ending. We must know who the character is. Write the story in the correct tense. Describe the nouns and the actions. And you must give it a good ending. If we talk about the elements of a short story, it has five basic elements. Setting, which includes time, place, and environment. Plot is the storyline, the series of events. Characters, the people who take part in the story. Point of view and the theme. Now let's look at each element one by one. Characters. Characters are the people or animals in a story. A main character is the most important character in the story. Setting. It means when and where the story takes place. It includes time and place. When we read a story, we learn something from it. The central message, the theme, what the author wants you to learn or know. A broad idea about life, usually not stated, must be inferred. Conflict, an important element in the story. Without conflict, a story seems boring. Conflict is when two things are in opposition, a clash between two forces. Every story worth reading has a conflict. And if there is no conflict, there is no tension in the story. This is plot diagram. We always begin a story by introducing characters and setting, which is called beginning, and you can include this in first paragraph. Followed by the second paragraph, which includes the rising action. You discuss the problem, you introduce the conflict in the story. Followed by resolution, which you can include in third paragraph, where the problem is worked out. And finally, the story comes to an end. Now, let's quickly look at all the elements of a story once again. So, five basic elements include characters. Protagonist is the central character. An antagonist can be a villain or a man in opposition. Plot includes exposition, rising action, climax, falling action, and resolution. Setting includes time and place, when and where the story takes place. Theme is the central idea or lesson or moral that we learn from a story. Conflict. A man can be in conflict with himself, which is called internal conflict, or with someone else. Can be other man or society or nature or animals. So these are the five essential story elements which you all need to keep in mind while writing a story. Now let's look at this question. Based on the following opening, write a short story not more than 150 to 200 words. Sia was excited. The holidays had begun, and the family had planned a visit to her grandmother's house in the hills. They were to leave that day. She reached home and found police all over the house next door. Her dad told her their visit would have to be cancelled as the old Mr. Verma living next door had disappeared and the police had instructed all the neighbors to be available for investigation. Sia was. So, this was the opening. Here begins the process of story writing. Who, what, when, where, why, how. So this all includes in the process of writing a story. So now let's begin writing a story. We begin story with exposition. It means you all need to write about the characters, describe the characters, introduce them, add a few characters if required. The question which I shared with you mentions the main characters. You also need to talk about the place. It's equally important. It creates interest in the mind of the reader. He starts visualizing if the action has taken place inside the house or outside. So you need to describe the surroundings. Once you do that, your story seems so interesting and reader finds it worth reading. And equally important is time. It's very important to mention time. It means when does the action take place? It can be in the middle of the night, it can be in the broad daylight, it can be at dawn, it can be at dusk, it can be any time. But you need to mention that in your story to make it more appealing to the reader. So, time is equally important as places. So, you can introduce the characters and you can talk about time and place in the first paragraph, which is called exposition. Or you can also call it an introduction. So that introduction must be very interesting. So after first paragraph, we move on to the next paragraph where we talk about the problem, or you can say we introduce the problem, which is called conflict. So, conflict is a problem or struggle in a story. Conflict can be of two types, internal as well as external. Internal conflict is struggle within a character's mind or heart, and external conflict is struggle between the two characters or between a character and nature. So the action starts rising here. That is why this is also called rising action. So when you start doing that, you need to write about the conflict. The conflict which man is having with himself, or a man can also have conflict with another person. It means protagonist versus antagonist. Protagonist is the central character and can be in conflict with a villain, or a man in opposition. A man can also be in conflict with nature. So it's very important to mention the cause of conflict in the second paragraph, and also with whom the person is having conflict with. And then comes the third paragraph, the falling action. So, what is climax? The climax is the high point of a story where the problem gets solved. The main character finds a solution to solve, that problem. All loose ends of the plot are tied up, the conflicts and climax are taken care of. This all you need to write in third paragraph. It is followed by resolution, which you need to write in 25 to 30 words. Now your problem is solved. You can end the story on a happy note. Concluding sentence could have a value-based observation. In short, you can say the story comes to a reasonable ending. And once you end it, you learn something out of it. Some moral comes out of it, which is an important part of a story. As far as the language is concerned, all forms of past tense can be used, mostly simple past, past continuous, perfect and perfect continuous tense. You can also add dialogues. Most of the story is written in reported speech and passive voice. I hope you all understood the format of story writing. Just go through it once, and in case you have any doubt, you can clear it out. All the best.